Vampire: The Masquerade Bloodlines 2 is the long-awaited sequel to Troika Games' 2004 RPG, despite a rough and buggy launch, managed to capture the imagination of many fans enough to receive patches for years after it was out. Hopes were high for the sequel when it was announced, but a series of release date delays, followed by original developer Hardsuit Labs being replaced. Paradox Interactive has popped up to assure fans that work continues on the project, although it won't be shown at the publisher's upcoming PDX-Con. With Vampire: The Masquerade Bloodlines 2 having built up quite the history in the years since its reveal and the project in a relatively uncertain state at the moment. Here is a look at the announcement surrounding it alongside what we currently know about its release date, gameplay development. Is the game coming this year, or not? Before that, 99% of viewers are not subscribed yet, so please consider subscribing and click the bell for new video notifications. This will help spread the word. So let's start the video. Bloodlines 2 was announced in March 2019 after being teased a month prior through Soulmate searching app Tender. It was then given a Q1 2020 release window, alongside the first set of details about it, including its Seattle setting, the fact that players would start out as lesser vampires, and its emphasis on gameplay choice. Throughout 2019, Paradox Interactive and then developer Hardsuit Labs shared quite a bit of information regarding the Thin Blood disciplines, 5 joinable clans and factions, as well as an E3 2019 gameplay trailer that gave us a good look at the first-person action RPG. So the first delay happens on the event. In September 2019, the publisher announced Bloodlines 2 would not be playable at that year's PDX-Con event, but that all attendees would get a free copy of the game. Days prior to PDX-Con event starting, the game suffered its first delay, having its release date pushed back to some point beyond Q1 2020. The second delay after its following months. Senior product manager Florian Schwarzer told us, later in the month, that the delay happened because Bloodlines 2 is a big game with a lot of content, and the team behind it wanted to make sure that it gave it the proper attention. The third delay, as February 2021 rolled by, Bloodlines 2's release date saw its third delay, which was accompanied by the news that Hardsuit Labs was no longer involved in the game's development. This pushed its release date outside of 2021. In March, the studio was hit with layoffs. Following its third delay, Bloodlines 2 was surrounded by deep silence. We still don't know who the new developer is, but CEO Frederick Wester said in an interview from October 2021 that a very reputable and talented developer is now handling it. Although Bloodlines 2 is still in development, Wester admitted that Paradox almost cancelled the game, before an internal pitch convinced the publisher to continue its development. When asked about whether a 2023 release date might be realistic, he answered, via Google Translate, with the following: "We have a while left, so you could say." During the Q3 interim report livestream, Paradox Interactive CFO Alexander Bricka said that the new developer is doing quite well and we are happy with the progress of the project, but it's still quite some time before we can start to talk about release dates, while adding that the publisher will keep the developer's name under wraps to give it the time it needs to focus on development. All the information from this point on comes before the game's third delay. It's unclear how much of the work put in by Hardsuit Labs will be used by the new developer or if the game's overall vision has suffered drastic changes. The details regarding the 5 clans previously revealed are still available on the Bloodlines 2 website, as of October 18, 2021. Now we find Bloodlines 2 in a kind of purgatory, with no release date, and nobody sure what studio is even working on it. We'd love to hope that Bloodlines 2 has a chance of a 2022 release, but signs aren't looking great. While Frederick Wester, CEO at Bloodlines 2's publisher Paradox Interactive, recently tweeted that the game is in good hands, he confirmed soon after that Bloodlines 2 won't be appearing at this year's PDX-Con in September. That's a strong indication that we probably won't be getting any details about the game until 2023. Now let's talk about the game story and how many clans are there in the game and exclusive details. Paradox has confirmed the first 5 clans coming to Bloodlines 2. First revealed was the Bruja, which is one of the 7 playable clans from the first Bloodlines game. In Bloodlines 2, there are few of them left in Seattle and the ones that remain are from the failed Anarch movement. First, the Bruja have access to potency and celerity. Typically the rebels, rabble, and rejects in modern times. Historically, they were a clan of warrior scholars, but they have always been against institutions and authority, especially the Camarilla. Second, the Tremere have access to Auspex and Thaumaturgy, has powerful warlocks that control and wield vampire blood. While Auspec's abilities are allowed under the law of the Masquerade, but the destructive power of thaumaturgy is prohibited. Third, the Toreador have access to celerity and presence. Toreador are a collective of vampires that use beauty and seduction techniques to lure their prey. They're also obsessed with the arts, and prefer to turn musicians and painters to their side. Fourth, the Ventru have access to dominate and fortitude. Paradox describes the Ventru as the clan that has already won. As the founders of the largest vampire sect, the Camarilla, they ensure the Masquerade remains unbroken by bossing folk around from a big tower. And fifth, the Malkavians have access to dementation and Auspex. A fan favorite of the last Bloodlines, the Malkavians stand out thanks to their unique abilities to see glimpses of the future and receive helpful information from a voice in their head. Players start off as newly created vampires called Thinbloods. These are the 14th or 15th generation vampires, which makes them joining another vampire clan seemingly unorthodox. However, the story will apparently explain this by having players join another clan as an outsider later in the game, rather than pick one before starting like in the original Bloodlines. Thinbloods are generally their own clan, but some have the characteristics of their bloodline or are able to develop their own powers. In Bloodlines 2, they will be more powerful than how they are usually portrayed in tabletop lore. That's all the clans Paradox is talking about right now, but the company also mentioned that more clans will be added to Bloodlines 2 after the game is released. Like the original Bloodlines, players will have a few vampiric powers at their disposal to aid in combat or other harrowing situations. In Bloodlines 2, you can get up to a total of 6 active disciplines. There will be many clan-based powers to choose from, but since you start out as a Thinblood, you can choose only one of the following powers: Chiropterans, derived from the scientific name for bat, Chiroptera. These are you guessed it, bat powers. You can briefly glide like a bat and swoop down on enemies or summon a bat swarm to attack enemies. Mentalism. These are your telekinetic powers, or the ability to move stuff with your mind. You can pull objects with your mind and eventually learn to levitate enemies and NPCs in the air. Nebulation. You become your own fog machine, except way cooler. You can summon a mist shroud to hide yourself and the sound of your footsteps or envelop your enemies in a choking vortex. As previously mentioned, Thinbloods generally don't have powers, and are considered the weakest of all vampires, but on rare occasions they are able to learn strange and rare disciplines without training, while others develop their own powers. Joining another clan later in the game will unlock other powers also. First, the Auspex. You can use Aura Sense to see NPCs through walls and mark their weaknesses or psychic projection to detach from your body and explore as an astral projection. Second, the Potency. You're strong. Like, scary strong. You can use Fist of Cain to knock down walls and throw enemies, or Earth Shock to punch the ground and send out a violent shockwave to knock down enemies. Third, the Celerity. This is the move faster than a blink of the eye discipline. You can disorient your enemies with Unseen Storm or use Accelerate to slow down the world around you to dodge bullets and punches both. Fourth, the Thaumaturgy. Use Skewer to turn your own blood into dangerous spikes or Purge to make your enemy vomit blood that heals you. At higher levels you can use Boil Blood to make an NPC explode from the inside and damage those around them. Fifth, the Presence. You've got a deadly je ne sais quoi. You can awe a room full of people and turn them into mindless worshippers or entrance your admirers to follow you around, shielding you from harm. Sixth, the Dominate. You've got staggering powers of mental intimidation. You can mesmerize an NPC, making them oblivious to surroundings and pain, or command an NPC to attack enemies or move objects for you. Seventh, the Fortitude. When you fall down, you definitely get back up again. You can use Absorb to deflect attacks and heal wounds, or Personal Armor to turn your skin into stone like the Thing. Eighth, the Dementation. You can manipulate emotions and fill others with fear. You can haunt an enemy, causing them to flee in a panic, or use Berserk to fill them with uncontrollable rage to lash out at everything around them. Bloodlines 2 delays are one thing, but it's been hit with troubling news several times beyond just that. Lead writer Brian Mitsoda, who was one of the main faces of the game since its unveiling, was fired from the project along with creative director Kai Clooney in 2020. According to a blog post by developer Hardsuit Labs, the decisions came as part of organizational changes to the development team. In October 2020, senior narrative designer Kara Ellison left Hardsuit Labs as well to join League of Geeks. As of February 2021, It's Hardsuit Labs that's been fired. Bloodlines 2 publishers Paradox Interactive announced that the game would be delayed past 2021 while they changed developers. "We have started a collaboration with a new studio partner to finish work on the game," Paradox said. "This has been a difficult decision, but we are convinced that it is the right way forward to do the game justice. It's not unheard of for a cancellation at this stage, but likely Paradox is just waiting until they have something new to share after letting a new studio take over." Now let's talk about the campaign and story hours in the game. Hardsuit Labs estimates a single playthrough will take around 25–30 hours, depending on your playstyle. Paradox also said during their Clan Bruja reveal stream that if you play only the main questline without speed running, you'll get your first non-Thinblood powers roughly 5 hours into the game. Like the first game, there will also be a branching narrative and many side quests, so the developers encourage multiple playthroughs. And, like Bloodlines, the entire game will take place at night. Now let's talk about the characters' creations. Unlike the original Bloodlines that limited your character's physical appearance to the clan you choose, it seems like character creation in Bloodlines 2 will be more robust. The unofficial patch added the ability to choose your character's background in the original game, but it did not have much effect on the overall story. That's going to change this time around. No word on how much control players will have over the character creation process, but an integral element to the story is being able to choose who you were in your human life. If you say you were a cop or a coroner and you walk into a police station, the people in there are going to react to you differently compared to giving your character a different background. Little things like that seem like they will make Bloodlines 2 a different, personalized experience for everyone, which is a great thing when it comes to RPGs. Now let's talk about how do resonances work in Bloodlines 2. Bloodlines 2 will adapt the emotional blood resonances from the tabletop Vampire the Masquerade, which give different qualities to blood. Where the tabletop RPG had 4 resonances, Bloodlines 2 will have 5. Delirium, desire, fear, pain, and rage. Devouring blood with different resonances will lead to additional abilities. Resonances act as a secondary XP to unlock and activate resonance-specific buffs called merits. With heightened senses, you'll be able to see into a character's cardiovascular system, which is colored differently depending on what emotion they are feeling. The idea is that not all blood is the same. These characters might be filled with delirium, others might be filled with rage, and by drinking different types of resonance, blood, we're treating it as sort of a secondary type of experience that further allows you to customize your character based on your preferred tastes. There will certainly be relationships in Bloodlines 2, but whether or not they will be romantic, exactly, is another story. During the PC Gamer Show segment, Bloodlines 2 writer Kara Ellison told us that they will be very fragile, volatile, and mature. In a panel at PAX West 2019, US Gamer interviewed Ellison about a number of topics, including romance. Ellison explained that Bloodlines 2 is aiming to be less transactional than other RPGs when it comes to flirtation and sex in Seattle. It won't be as simple as inserting the right number of coins into a character to make more of your relationship. You can give people everything they want and they might never give a shit about you, Ellison says. And that's the way things are. It's a properly grim outlook for a dark game. Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2 no longer has a definitive release date or even window associated with it, but it had previously been announced for PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, Xbox One, Xbox Series X, S, and PC. According to Paradox Interactive, it is still actively in development. The current developer has seemingly not been revealed as of yet. Are you still interested in picking up Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2 when it eventually releases? What do you make of the delays and development struggles? Let us know in the comments, or feel free to reach out and hit us up directly over on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, links in the description below. So this is all we know about the game leaks and details and development. As always, thanks for watching. If you enjoy the contents here, please consider subscribing and click the bell icon for future notifications, and leave your comments below on this game. As we appreciate your time watching our contents, we will reply to all the comments and your questions. As always, thank you for watching. See you guys on the next video. Cheers.